I love the color purple. It's always been my favorite color, and I've always loved magic. So when I was in second grade, I wanted to be a purple witch for Halloween. Yeah, and my dad suggested, it's like, why don't you just be a wizard? I'm like, no, wizards are just con men's in capes. Witches actually know spells. So I got a purple pointy hat, and I got my mom's purple moo-moo, and I went out trick-or-treating in my neighborhood. Yeah. What I didn't consider is that my friends would see me. Yeah, and one of them called me gay. Yeah. One of them was kind of creative, though. He called me a Wiccan grimace. And I thought that was pretty creative. For those of you that don't know, the grimace is thought to be an anthropomorphized milkshake made popular by the McDonald's Corporation. Excellent. But them calling me gay led to the best comeback I've ever used in my life, which was, purple isn't a gay color, it's a royal color, you peasant. And it was worth not having friends. That's not true, though. I did have friends. One day, my mom sat me down and explained that one of the kids that was picking on me because he had a bad home life, because his older brother was addicted to heroin. Ooh, yeah. And she said if I ever went over to his house, I should be careful if I ever saw balloons or anything, because they might be filled with heroin. Very heavy conversation to have with your kid. A couple months later, my friend had a birthday party. And they brought out the balloons, and I was like, that is way too much heroin for us kids to do. I was not invited back. But communication was bad in my family. Like, I had a dog when I was a kid, and one day my dog wasn't outside, so I asked my mom where he was. And she said, I'm sorry, Matt, but your dog has bought the farm. And I said, well, can we buy the farm next to his? And she said, I'm sorry, Matt, but we can't afford it. I lived for years thinking my dog was a better investor than my parents. Yeah. I did have some confusion at school, though. Like, we had this rule that on your birthday, if you brought in treats, you had to bring in treats for your whole class. I think that's a pretty common rule. But I misinterpreted that rule, and I thought it meant that I had to bring in treats for the whole school. So I showed up on my birthday with 200 cupcakes. Yeah. And a friend of mine was like, hey, man, you just did that so people would like you. And I said, no, I did that because I have a reading comprehension problem. I see somebody about it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Enjoy your cupcakes. Yeah, did not handle that well. So I was put into emotional support classes. And it was really nice, emotional support class, because in that class, I was encouraged to have confidence and to confront my bullies. But then my school had budget cuts. And emotional support class got rolled into anger management class, where I was encouraged to fear for my life every day. It did not work out too well. I did confront one bully, though. After school one day, he punched me in the face. And I was like, okay, what do I do? What did I learn in emotional support class? So I hugged him. And I held him, and I'm like, hey, we don't have to throw down. We just have to hug each other till the anger goes away. Then he pushed himself away from me, punched me a couple more times. Don't think it worked out too well. I don't think it helped matters that I had my tongue in his ear. That was an audible on my part. I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But since then, I've tried to be confident. I'm trying to find ways to be confident in my life. And one thing I tried to do to be confident was like, what's something that confident people do? I was like, smoke cigars. So I learned everything I could about cigars in 2 hours. And I went to my local cigar shop. And the cashier was like, hey, you've been in before, haven't you? You're that guy that likes those bold and strong cigars. And I said yes, because I wanted that lie to be real. Then she took me into the really humid room, which I learned is called a humidor. And she sold me the most expensive cigar there. Then she must have thought I was really cool because she invited me to smoke it inside the store. Yeah. And when I woke up, the EMTs explained that high levels of nicotine when you've never smoked before will cause something called a vasovagal response that'll make you pass out. I was also told I was never allowed to come back to the cigar shop because they didn't have something called liability insurance, which isn't a very cool business practice, but it is pretty bold. Yeah. Another thing I tried to do was join a men's cooking group. Something confident people do. And I wanted to make a good impression the first night, so I went over early, and I was like, hey, let me help out. And he's like, yeah, will you get me a can of beans out of my pantry? I said, sure. Went into his pantry, only one can of beans in his pantry, and it was bloated. So I took it back out and I threw it away. He's like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, oh, it was bloated. It had botulism. It was dangerous. He's like, no, I probably just dropped it at some point. You just wasted that can of beans, and you ruined dinner. So needless to say, I did not join that men's group because they all died of botulism. My bank called me recently and told me I needed to start repaying my student loans. Yeah, right? They're like, Mr. Storrs, you knew the risks when you took out those student loans. And I said, you knew the risks when you gave student loans to a liberal arts major. That was a bad investment. You can ask my dog. Yeah, I confuse the words definitely and defiantly. And I think it ruins my chances of trying to get a new job when I intend to write, I definitely want to work for your company. But instead I write, I defiantly want to work for your company. You son of a bitch. They don't appreciate that. But I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. You guys have a great night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.